What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome to another episode of Catch Up with Clayton. I'm your host, Clayton, and today's May 4th. Yeah, May 4th. Oh, that's the whole Star Wars May the 4th be with you thing, which is actually interesting. I didn't even write this down, but something probably worth noting is that there are a lot of spiritual alliterations. Is alliteration the right word? There's a lot of metaphysical truth with it. And you can definitely look at this in the terms of like higher and lower vibrational frequencies. Because, sorry, I don't have my breath for some reason. Let me see if I can rearrange how I'm sitting real quick. Ugh. Ugh. All right. Oh, that feels better. So what I'm trying to get at here with the May the 4th be with you kind of situation is that they talk about the good and the bad. Like you can use your knowledge of all of this shit that's going on. All the knowledge of the shit that's going on. It's not really how I kind of want to articulate it. All this spiritual stuff that we've talked about, all of this energy work, all of this, stuff, you can use this for the dark side. You very easily can. And it'll work for you. Like, no lie. It will. But you're gonna have a much more difficult journey, I would say. It's going to be a lot heavier. It's going to be a lot darker. And you're going to find yourself in this place of, I guess hate isn't the right word, but mistrust. You're not going to flow with the beauty of the world. You're not going to see the joy or the purity in it. And there's this whole thing that the Raw contract and the Raw Chronicles kind of go into with, you ascend essentially if you help 51%. If you do 51% of service for others versus yourself, and then there's something where if you do 95% for yourself, like if you're selfish 95% of the time, like those are the two thresholds that you go, like you transcend essentially. And essentially they say that if you choose to go the 95% selfish route, that inevitability, you will actually still have to emerge and view the light, like at the end of it. It's a little bit above my pay grade. So I'm just going to leave that out there, something to think about, and maybe we'll come back to it at some point in the future. But the whole point being, Star Wars, there's a reason that it captivates billions of people. Billions? Is that a lot? It's generated billions of dollars for Disney and the whole Scylla Chronicles and all that shit. So, there's a reason that they keep having the money to pump it out again and again and again, because there are underlying truths within it. And I think this is something we've talked about before, like Harry Potter, any sacred text for that matter. You'll find the parallels in all of them. So, wow, I knew this was going to be a long episode, but I didn't even think I was going to add that at the beginning. So something for my astrologers out there, I've been reading a lot of stuff that there's shit going on with Pluto this past week, and maybe it's into this week as well. There's a bunch of different injuncts or something, but the main thing that my takeaway is that there's going to be some struggle that you probably experienced in the last week. I believe this has to do with I'm going to be honest, I really don't know. I don't know what it has to do with, but essentially if you felt struggle the last week, it was from that. And something that might reemerge is something that probably you were going through in 2014 or 2012. I think between 2012 and 2014, if there was a pattern or something you were experiencing at that time, apparently that's the type of energy that's coming up again. Now, here's where Clayton's wisdom comes in. What I noticed is learning to just accept your feelings. It's a part of the human process. We have this characteristic or this feeling whenever we are human to label emotions as good or bad. However, as we've discussed on this podcast before, no such thing as good or bad. Not going to dive into that here. The point is that if you feel an emotion, fear, anxiety, shame, we tend to label those as bad. I mean, in reality, they're not good or bad. They're just a lower frequency. It's just a factually lower frequency than some other things such as love and joy. Excuse me. I think the coffee's getting into some like coffee burp, so don't want to get you guys caught up on that on tape. The point I'm trying to get at is to just accept these emotions, whatever it is. If it's jealousy, if it's shame, if it's guilt, just accept them. Just say, this is how I know I'm human. This is how I know I'm having a human experience, and just sit with them. Just be present with those emotions. And quite frankly, the universe is going to reward you for not pushing against those emotions, for just being like, yeah, that's how I feel today. And this actually kind of ties in now to a corollary that I've been playing around with, where there's this level of balance in yin and yang that we have within our bodies. And I still think the yin is feminine. I should really be fact checking myself on this one. But yin, I believe, is feminine and yang is masculine. And so this is a perfect example of highlighting that duality. So feel the emotion, but don't suppress it. That's your yin. Now the yang comes in whenever you carry yourself with the outside world. So you can have this feeling of sadness, depression, anxiety, whatever within you. And that's totally fine. But the beauty of it is when you can acknowledge it and use your yang, your masculine, to not propagate that out into the world. And this is something that I have probably seen in the spiritual community so much, where people are like, I'm spiritual, but it's too yin. And I think I talked about this a little bit in the episode 32 with Sam Cabert, where it's just, I'm so spiritual and I'm going through shit, so I'm allowed to just throw that into the world. And here's the problem is, if you actually propagate that out into the world, it's going to come back at you again harder, because that's the way you're defining your reality. You're absolving yourself of any power that you have by giving it up to the universe. You're saying, oh, well, I'm anxious and I'm sad, so I should just tell everybody that. And it's like, no, you shouldn't. That is an unhealthy yin. That's an unbalanced, maybe not unhealthy isn't the right word. That is an unbalanced yin-yang discipline within your body relating to emotions and its way with the outside world. I hope that made sense, because that seemed like a lot to me. And to give you a personal example, like I was kind of feeling shitty earlier this week, and I was kind of going through these feelings, right? And I didn't want to propagate them out into the world. And an example that I've always used in the past, I love this example, so I'm going to reiterate it, right? Imagine that you're sitting in a body of water. Let's say it's a pool. I think a pool is a perfect example. And so it's you in this pool. You have your state of being, you have your thoughts and emotions, which are all inside you. And then you have actions, which you would carry out and create waves in this pool. So you have your personal state of being, and then thoughts and emotions, which could be influenced by anything. It could be influenced by different waves that are in this pool. It could be influenced by other people in this pool. It could be influenced by the planets that are also in this quote unquote pool. And what happens is because of these influences hitting us, hitting your physical body, it creates these thoughts and emotional patterns inside your body. Now, what happens is that this influences you to make decisions, to act, to do stuff. So now you're creating action and vibrations in this pool of water. Well, let's say you calm it down, whatever, fine. You calm yourself down over a little bit of time, and now you're back to peace and love, and you're propagating peace and love. Well, the way the pool works is that whatever you put out into the universe, it's going to come right back at you and hit you in the face. So you just put out all this energy, it's going to come back at you that you need to kind of deal with it in the future. It's like the way karma is set up and everything. So my whole point here, the reason I'm dragging this out, is to just say that you can feel sad, you can feel angry, you can feel depressed, you can feel all of these emotions, and I highly suggest that you do. There becomes a level of discernment whenever propagating it out through your actions. And there's healthy ways to do this. I'm not saying don't talk to people if you're going through stuff. I highly encourage that you do. I'm just trying to say that you should have a level of discernment, a level of healthy yang, not healthy is the wrong word, a level of balanced yang that then keeps you centered. You're like, all right, I'm feeling depressed, but I'm not going to let my depression leak on to the people around me, because that serves nobody good. Everyone else has got their own shit going on, right? But then, you can talk to people about that, and hopefully I'm not discouraging people from talking about that. I'm just trying to say that if you're walking down the hallway and you're feeling depressed and then you're starting to act in a depressed way, it's going to affect the people around you, even if it's subconscious. I digress. I hope that kind of made sense to people. Um, yeah. And because I noticed this, I think I noticed this in my life where these feelings were coming up. I acknowledged them and I kind of like found that balance of yang. I was like, oh shit, like I need to rebalance this yang. And when I did, and I was just like, okay, I feel like shit, but I'm not going to propagate that out into the world because I understand why I am, all the planets, all this different shit. So I'm not going to propagate that out. And what happened is that the universe actually started working with me. It was like, oh shit, Clayton, this kid over here learned his lesson. And they're like, we're going to hook you up with shit. So get this. So, what would it have been? It would have been Friday night, I think. Friday night. A buddy of mine, season ticket holder for the Pittsburgh Penguins, he hit me up and was like, hey man, like, some shit fell through. You want to come? Like, my dad can't go to the game tonight. Do you want to go? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And, so we stopped at some buddies' houses to have a drink or two. I personally didn't drink myself, but the other guys did. And they start talking about how it's fan appreciation night. So what happens is they give you like a scratch off ticket when you go in and there's like a prize that you win. Well, they're talking about like the prizes and like what the big prizes are. And the big prize is like a shirt off a player's back, which is, a player who played in this game. They'll then sign the jersey and then, kind of give it to you and ship it out and all that stuff. And they're talking about it. And I had this thought and I said it out loud. I was like, sorry about that. We're in a hotel room, so chaos. I don't know if that picked up. Where were we? Hotel, or we're not in the hotel. That wasn't the story. Shit, my bad, guys. Dun dun dun. Dun-dun-dun-dun. These are probably reasons why I should edit, but give you the raw stuff. Yeah, we're talking about the shirt off the back, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, and even just through working through things like attachment and stuff, I'm not really attached to the sports teams like I used to be. Like back in the day, I'd be like, oh shit, that'd be the coolest thing to have. And I thought about it and I was like, my friend who invited me, his dad, I was like, I said it out loud. I was like, if I want it, I'd give it to your dad. And my buddy was kind of like taken aback. He's like, dude, you don't have to do that, blah, 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 blah. I was like, nah, like it's cool. Like I know it would mean more to him than it does to me. And so, so I just put that out there. We get in the car, we start bullshitting about other stuff. We get to the game, we get our scratch offs. Everybody scratches theirs off, and I was kind of like taking my time with mine because it already is decided, right? And I started scratching it off, and I just see free shirt back, and I go, holy shit, no way. I scratched the rest of it off and showed it to my buddy. He's like, holy shit, dude, like you won, like you fucking got it. I started losing my shit. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And that whole thing played out. I kind of signed up for like the jersey. They're going to ship it to me, all this cool stuff. And I haven't told him yet, but then I realized right after that, I was like, shit, I promised this to my buddy's dad. And it's like, yeah, like I have to give it to him. You know what I mean? I was like, whoever I get, it doesn't matter. Like it's got to go to him. Right. And there's a whole nother element of this, but I'm going to save this last element. Okay. So who I ended up pooling, because I had like all these different cards out. Let me finish that last thought before I move on to this next story. So basically I'm going to give him this jersey, right? I haven't told him yet. I don't believe he listens to the podcast, and I kind of hope he doesn't, so this doesn't ruin the surprise for him. But, my buddy like told him like, oh, Clayton won, and, he's kind of getting pissed because he's like, shit, probably like that should have been mine, da 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 da. So I'm excited to actually randomly run into him and see what he has to say. But, yeah, there's another element to this that is kind of unfolding. I'm going to leave it as a cliffhanger because I called my shot on pulling this jersey, and there's another calling my shot coming up, but I don't want to put my ego into it because then it might not happen. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm just going to save that as a cliffhanger where we'll circle back in a couple weeks on this, and I'll let you know if this other thing came true, because it's like a three-part and the calling it isn't the right word, a three-part like holy shit what if this happens situation. And part one of that holy shit has already actually happened, and it happened in the game last night, where their first playoff game. And so the last two pieces, we'll see what happens, but I'm just gonna leave that as a cliffhanger. um Whew, but that took a while. But let's keep moving. um Connecting with your higher self and training your intuition. Yes, 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 yes. I started reading a book called Ask Your Guides. I've only read like the first two chapters of it, but essentially it's all about how there's spirit guides around us, how we want to connect with them, how I'm losing my train of thought now. How to communicate, what to ask them, how to use them in your life. And so I have been doing some of the techniques to connect with my higher self, right? So if you're not aware, like you have your physical body, which has its genetic code, but there's also a level of your higher self, right? Or this spirit that embodies you. So for instance, Clayton, who I am as Clayton, is this embodiment of is this embodiment of the spirit, and it's of my physical body, which makes Clayton. So there's actually, we all have a spirit, and that spirit actually has a different name than the one that I was given at birth, because Clayton is the combination of that physical thing combined with me, right? So think about it as, if you have, we have hydrogen and oxygen. But if you take two hydrogen atoms and connect them with or two hydrogen molecules and connect them with an oxygen molecule, we now have water. So it's like, it's 2-part hydrogen and 1-part oxygen. It comes together and it's like, oh, water. That's essentially what we are. We're a physical body connected with a higher spirit, which then creates, in my case, Clayton. And so then there's a higher version of me, a higher self, that's different. And I'll give him a shout out. His name's actually Igor. And there's a lot to unpack there. I actually first came across this name whenever I was in my Akashic Record story. I'm not sure how many people have heard it. I'm not going to go too in depth on it just because of time's sakes, because these are supposed to be smaller episodes. But essentially, I came across it in my Akashic Record story that it was Igor, and I was kind of actually pulled away by it. I was like, it's not Igor. And then going through this like Ask Your Guides book, I found out that it actually is Igor. And it is what it is. Me and Igor are getting along now, so it's such a fucking weird thing to even just say that out loud. But here's why I'm bringing it up, because I'm coming from New York right now. If nobody knew, I spent Saturday till Thursday. I'm going to be in New York. So when you're listening to this, I might actually be flying back to Pittsburgh. But what I did is I've actually just been using Igor as my guide. So I literally have nothing to do in Pittsburgh, and all I've been doing is setting intentions and then talking with Igor. And it's like, and here's where it's going to get weird, right? Because it sounds fucking crazy. I completely get it. Like I have partially thought to myself, like, am I crazy? Like, am I actually talking to a spirit, or am I kind of starting to develop some sort of bipolar disorder? Or not bipolar, it wouldn't be bipolar, but what is schizo? Is it schizophrenic whenever you kind of are like talking to yourself? I personally couldn't figure it out for a little bit. And then I heard a bunch of other people kind of bringing up how it's like, you hear this little voice, but it's just like, you hear this little voice and it sounds like you, but it's like just a little bit calmer. It's a little bit more calm. And I think it embodies a little bit more of yin than our physical body. Like I think our physical body inhabits a lot more yang, or is more used for yang. I'm going down the wrong rabbit hole here. The point is that you can actually have a dialogue with your higher self, with your Igor to my Clayton, if that makes sense. So what I've been doing to train myself to open up my pathway to communicate with Igor is, I have nothing to do in the day, and I'll sit there and I'll set an intention. I'm like, all right, Igor, like help direct me to like a bagel shop, right? Or, I'm hungry, let's go get food. Or, yeah, stuff like that. And maybe we'll use the food. Let's use the food thing as an example, where I'm like, I remember setting the intention of like, Igor, let's get food. I'm hungry. Take me to the place that will help me experience like the most of myself, and will have the food that's most satisfactory. Right. And so walking through New York, I just let my intuition guide me. Every time I came to a corner of a street, I asked Igor, I was like, left, right, straight, where are we going? And, um, he basically took me on this little path through New York, and it was actually a lot of fun because you're almost absolving yourself of any control and any power. It's kind of like all right, well, I'm not making the decision, so I almost don't have responsibility for where I'm going, and it's kind of freeing in a sense. I'll be honest with you. And what kind of occurred was he's like, all right, go straight here, make a right here, go straight here. And I actually saw a sign of pizza, and I was like, just instantly had this like download of like, oh, I'm going to get pizza. And the little voice in my head, Igor, he was like, yeah, we're going to get pizza, but not here. I was like, okay, fine. So we keep walking, whatever. I then become trapped in my mind, and like, not trapped in my mind, but I start like thinking and not thinking about anything in particular. And I hear Igor come back in, and he's like, you're not paying attention. And I was like, oh shit, like what? And I start looking around, and he goes, look for the lights. And, there was the sidewalk was lit, but then there was this place up on the front left, probably like a block ahead. So I couldn't really see far enough where I couldn't see what it was. Like I had no idea what it was. He's like, that's where we're going. And meanwhile, physically speaking, my physical body, I could not see what it was. I just saw a bunch of lights on this like not a billboard, but kind of sticking out from the building. A yawning. Is it called a yawning? And I'm like, all right, like this is going to be fucking crazy if they actually have food. So I walk up, and I'm like, hey, I like walk in, and I'm like, fuck, it's a restaurant. I like lost it. I was like, this is so fucking crazy. I look around, and it was beautiful. And so I was just like, all right, sick. Like, I sat at the bar. There's a whole fucking crazy ass story from the bar scene, but right now I'm going to keep that to myself. But then, the guy behind the bar gives me a menu, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, all right, Igor, like first thing I see, I'm going to get it. I open it up. The first thing I look at is an artichoke olive pizza. And it was like, fuck. I was like, all right, I guess I'm getting pizza. Like I was, had this earlier in the story. And so I'm getting energized just talking about it. And so hopefully this is making some sense to you guys. But yeah, man, just connect with your higher self. It's so liberating because you have this intuitive guide within you to direct you to so many different places, so many different experiences. And we're too much using physical stuff like your GPS and your phone. And this even goes to another layer where there was times where I was listening to Igor, and he would be like, okay, you're going to go down this street. So I'd go, and he's like, you're going to make a right and then another right. So basically I would cross the street and then walk back along the same street. And I'm thinking to myself like, dude, we just crossed this street. And he's like, no, you missed something. And as I'm walking back, I like see something that like energized me. And I was like, holy shit, dude, like this is fucking crazy. Like there's this higher knowledge just fucking within us, and we're not listening to it, guys. We're just not. It's crazy. It just blows my mind, and I'm like, fuck, dude, like you're right. I'm done. Like I'm no longer in control. You got take over. And there's another story, and this is one actually that is worth sharing, is I was walking through Central Park, and I saw a trash can spilled out across the road, across the walkway. And I see it. First thing I have is, it would be nice, it would be a good thing to do if I picked it up, right? Then the logical mind kicked in, and it said, well, you don't have I'm going to change my tone of voice because it sounds different in my head. So this will get you like a little bit of a better understanding, right? Let me see if I can, excuse me, let me say this from my perspective, right? So I'm walking. Hold on. We will be conducting testing of the building's fire alarm system. Oh. Please disregard any alarms you may hear or see. The fire alarm's about to go off. We will be conducting testing of the building's fire alarm system. Please disregard any alarms you may hear or see. This is only a test. Thank you. shit, this is not the time that I want to hear this. um, okay, well, I'm gonna push through it. If alarms start going off, I'll I'll pause this recording, and then I guess we'll have to stitch it up. But so the trash can story. Um, Let me think here. Oh yeah, I wanted to kind of do this dual. Maybe I should pause it now and then come back to this whenever they set off the alarms. Nah, fuck it. Let's see what happens. All right, so the trash can's built on the side of the road. So visualize this way. You're walking down a pathway, you're in Central Park, and you see a trash can spilt. The lid's off, there's trash in the street. And so I'm walking, and the first thing that comes to mind is like, you should pick that up. The next thought, oh, but what about like the germs on it? You don't have any hand sanitizer. Like, what's going to happen? You'll figure it out later. Don't worry about it. Well, but the dirt, like the grime, just you should pick it up. And so that little conversation happened right as I got to it, and it happened probably in the matter of like an instant. Like that conversation happened so fast. And I'm like, fuck it, you're right, I'll pick it up. So I pick up the trash can, I start picking up the pieces, I put it in the trash can, and I put it down. As I look up, two girls are walking towards me, and they're like, hey, do you need hand sanitizer? Like, I saw you pick that up. Like, that's so cool. Like, let me give you hand sanitizer. And I'm like, oh shit. I was like, this is amazing. And what's so amazing about this story is it highlights to not worry about the next step. You don't need to see the whole path in order to do the right thing or get to the next step. The universe will help you. And I'm honestly tearing up a little just saying this out loud because it's such a beautiful story to illustrate that just do the right thing and the universe will pick up those pieces that you aren't able to see right away. So shout out to Doda. I know she ended up helping me out with the hand sanitizer, and man, I'm actually kind of tearing up a little just saying it. But yeah, I thought it was such a beautiful thing, and it really highly illustrated what I've been going through the last 9 months of my life, where it's like, you'll just figure it out. Like, just follow your intuition, man. Like, no matter how scary it might be, just listen to it. It knows how to put you on your highest path, in a sense. And so, fuck, it was beautiful. It really was. And so I highly recommend anyone to, listen to that again and kind of go through the process of it. I've got a political thing here because I actually had this like super hard download. I know they're talking about spending $33 billion on, and I don't like talking about politics, but if I have like a spiritual perspective on something, I'm like, all right, I'm going to share this shit. So I know they're talking about spending $33 billion as quote unquote Ukrainian aid, but really what it is that money is probably just going to end up going to military contractors to spend more money on war, propagate more fear, just waste more money, all the whole shebang. It's not about ending wars, guys. I'm sorry to tell you that if you didn't realize that already. But what I realized is that if they actually wanted to help, or a great way that would help is if we put $33 billion into reserve or something like that and used it as a tax write-off for spending money at Ukrainian ran businesses. So if we went and spent money at a Ukrainian business, we should be able to put that on our tax form for the next year and then receive money back because we spent money at Ukrainian businesses. Like, please tell me that is not the most genius idea in the entire world. I mean, I'm open up to any sort of dialogue with it, but I think that's a genius idea, right? As opposed to spending money on war, we're reimbursing Americans for propping up, Ukrainian ran businesses. So think about that for a second. And then the other thing is the abortion conversation that's going on. Now, such a nuanced conversation about, if you're looking at it from a 3D perspective, it's very nuanced and it's very heavy. But I think it's a distraction. Because think about it, it's something that was quote unquote leaked. It's not even like they're actually doing anything. Like, nothing has actually been done. And sure, I'm all about like, before shit happens, put the foot before. I feel like fair. But why would it be leaked right now? So, keep aware, keep your wits about you. I bet I could almost guarantee some other shit's going on behind the scenes that they want to distract us from. And so they gave the media this story to run with. So yeah, if you see weird shit popping up, yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into it because I really have no idea at the end of the day. But my intuition, and there's that keyword again, is telling me that this whole abortion conversation is just a mere distraction because nothing has actually even happened yet. No documents have been signed. The Supreme Court hasn't even actually done anything. So two things is like, one, are they even talking about it? We don't know. It could be a fake document. I haven't looked at it, right? I really, so take this with a grain of salt because I have done very little to no research at all. It's just mere, oh, shit's happening, right? So I really have done no research, but I'm just telling you what my intuition is saying is that this is probably a distraction from something else. Yeah, so take that as you will. And let's wrap it up on that note because I don't know I have another story here about just a lady seeing just something from a different perspective, but I think you all are pretty much aware of that stuff. Quick note, go check out Patreon right now. I set up an account, and what it essentially will do is that if you become a member for, I don't know, like 3 months, you'll get some stickers. If you're a member for 6 months, you'll get a t-shirt. If you're a member for 9 months, I think you get a hoodie. It's something like that, and then a poster. Go check it out if you're interested. It'd be a great way to support this show. I know there's a free or not a free option, but a limited option that's like $3 a month. So if you're consuming all of this, like, please consider $3 a month. Like, that's 75 cents per show, not even including, I guess, these catch up with Claytons. So go check that out. I'm also the 999 challenge update. I have made 5 of the 10 videos. They've been recorded. So when I get back to Pittsburgh, I will wrap that up and I will get to you guys that as soon as I possibly can. That'll be a solid. It's going to be free, by the way, that 999 challenge. It'll be 9 days of 9-minute meditations. Yeah, it just feels right to me. So, and the reason there's 10 videos is because there's going to be like an introductory video on day 0. But yeah, guys, I'm excited. There's big stuff ahead, and I might be partnering with a friend's brand of mine for CBD, but that's just a little tidbit for right now. I'm not going to get too in depth into it. We'll see. But guys, with that being said, I appreciate you listening. It looks like we got away without the alarms, and yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, amazing rest of your week, and stay vigilant, stay honest. If I gave you anything to do, check out your intuition. Might sound like a calm little voice in the back of your head, but it's a powerful motherfucker. So with that being said, conscious monkeys, let's continue to grow together.